between China and the United States?
It could be a sign of decoupling. It also could be a sign that JD just wants to raise a little bit more money in a stock exchange that is a little bit closer to home. They're going to raise about $3.9 billion in this secondary listing, and their shares are on the rise this morning. They've been trading for about 3 hours, and they are up about 4%. 3.8% was the last one that I saw. So some positive signs there, especially, as you mentioned, with Chinese companies facing these risks in the United States. Now, this Hong Kong debut is also happening today on June 18th, which is a big day for JD.com. It's an annual sales blitz that they hold, and this year it is being closely watched to see how Chinese shoppers are behaving on the back end of the pandemic. For JD.com, June is a big month. For close to 3 weeks, the online shopping company runs an annual sales blitz that pulls in billions of dollars. It's called 618, or June 18, which is the day JD was founded. This year, it's being closely watched to see how Chinese shoppers behave as the country recovers from the coronavirus pandemic. This year's 618 is really being looked at as something of a barometer for China's economy. Tell us, what are you seeing so far?
This June 18 is very special. Just as you mentioned that we just got recovery from the virus, so that this moment is pretty important, and this is the first nationwide sales event during the recovery of the virus. But we do see a very good, strong momentum. There is a pretty good bump during this period, revenge consumption. And we saw all the categories, for example, electronic categories, fresh, medical, 3C, beauties, are all just rebound very well.
That rebound was hard-earned. At the height of the COVID-19 outbreak in China, large parts of the country were on lockdown. Many turned to online shopping for groceries and daily goods. And analysts say JD was in the best position to meet demand, because unlike rivals Alibaba and Pinduoduo, JD controls its entire logistics and delivery network.
If you just look at the COVID-19 period, then without a doubt that JD is the biggest winner of the pandemic among the three platforms because of the advantages that they have in the logistics network.
Advantages like these autonomous delivery robots. JD used them in Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak. What were the lessons that you learned from this crisis? This was one of the biggest crises that any of us have faced in our generation, and I'm sure it was the same for your company as well.
During this epidemic, this is a double-edged sword, right? For some of the category, it really, during the pandemic period, it really helped us to grow. For example, the medical category, the fresh produce, and also daily necessity. But for some of the category that get severely impacted, for example, home appliance and those big ticket items.
JD says sales across all categories have seen a bump during 618. That's because many Chinese are still wary of shopping in markets and retail stores. And just like the SARS outbreak in 2003, JD says COVID-19 will have a lasting impact on e-commerce in China.
The SARS helped the e-commerce booming in China, and the people starting to buy standard products on the e-commerce platform. But this pandemic helped the consumers to use e-commerce to purchase non-standard products. I think one of the biggest changes is a lot of consumers, they started to purchase fresh produce, daily necessities. That penetration previously is relatively low, but after this pandemic, we saw a really bump in the penetration.
Do you think that habit is going to stick around?
Based on the current momentum, we see a lot of people still stick to the platform after the pandemic.
Now, John, one thing that we're going to be looking for later this afternoon is the final sales number of this big promotion, 618. If the momentum that Ling Chengkai talked about in the package there keeps up throughout the whole period, it'll be somewhere north of $30 billion. Now, we did also ask him about the U.S.-China tensions and what that could mean for JD's business. And he said, look, we're a company, we don't want to talk about the political situation, but I will say, quote, we hope there could be an open and equal environment for global business players.
That's a nice statement to finish on.